Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Sabotage. It's the latest film from Arnold Schwarzenegger. It is kind of harkening back to the end of his filmography before he became a governor, when he was kind of trying to do darker, grittier films, not the kind of postmodern, silly, jokier films that he was really famous for, like Total Recall, Last Action Hero, not really in America, but everywhere else, or True Lies. They're always trying to utilize his image as an action star to do kind of not just do, something funny, but kind of utilize him, who isn't a particularly great actor, but use him to work for the film and not kind of stretch him as an actor and be kind of this gritty Charles Bronson kind of vein, which Sabotage kind of does. But Sabotage is kind of surprising in the fact that it actually kind of works for him. Schwarzenegger actually does a good performance in a subpar action movie, which is surprising. Arnold Schwarzenegger and his DE agent pack of renegades who decide, while doing a major drug bust, try to steal $10 million from this drug kingpin, but then when they hide it and come back for it, it is stolen. Somehow they find out this group had stolen $10 million out of this huge stack of money, even though none of them actually got it. But Arnold Schwarzenegger has been sent to a desk job, and the rest of his crew is just kind of hanging out for some reason, and a couple of them just disappear. I don't really understand what they're supposed to be doing. But he has a desk job, and 6 months go by, and they're cleared until they get back at it, and they're slowly being picked off, and they think it's the cartel who they stole the money from in the first place, but didn't actually get the money, is slowly killing them off, and they have to figure out what exactly is going on, if it's someone in their gang or if it's part of the cartel, and stop them before they're all dead. David Ayer, who previously directed End of Watch, and I think that was a much stronger police procedural than this film is, because a lot of the mystery simply is a little kind of like an action movie mystery. It's better on the action movie than it is the mystery, really, and I don't know if he's exemplary at that, really, because he does some pretty good second act and first act action sequences, but then when it comes to the end, I found the final third act action sequence kind of weak. And he tries to do different things, like when Arnold and the investigator are trying to find out exactly what's going on, they go to one of the guy's place who lives out in the woods, and they're kind of cutting between how he got killed and them investigating it. And it's a little confusing, which at first was interesting, but then the second time they're doing it, you're like, oh yeah, they're doing that thing again. Although the first time, we'll have to say, I was a little confused. I was like, wait, is this going on? Oh no, it's separate. And I think it's good at being kind of a grittier action movie in some places, but there's so much testosterone involved. The whole gang is so kind of sexist and foul. It's just like being with a bunch of jerky frat guys all the time. It's like really not that much fun. One of the things I liked about a previous Arnold Schwarzenegger starring during his recent cinematic comeback in The Last Stand was I liked hanging out with that crew. It was more of an audience-pleasing movie. And this film wants to be a mainstream big action movie, but also wants to have really, really unlikable characters. All the big stars who are part of his gang like being these unlikable characters, but they're really unlikable, and they're not really given much screen time, so we can't even get to really know them. So as much as I like Joe Manganiello and Sam Worthington and Terrence Howard in this film, I really wish they had gotten bigger roles to really flesh out what they're doing, because then I could have really maybe understood them more. If I'd really known these kind of jerky characters, maybe I would have been able to really side with them more. But the only one you're really getting to know is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, I understand this is an Arnold vehicle. He's the biggest guy on the poster, and Arnold definitely does a good starring role, but it does feel a little like off-centered, like why have this huge DA gang? And they're trying to do, apparently it is a take on Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians, but it ends up kind of being more Scooby-Doo. When I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this is trying to be his grittier performance, and it is probably one of his best performances in a while, and it's probably his best gritty performance, really, and his best darker performance, and it really showed actual range from him. I actually like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, but that's not what I'm seeing in Arnold Schwarzenegger movie 4, but I was actually surprised how good he was in this film. Whereas The Last Stand is a much better movie and much more of what I expect from an Arnold film. This is trying to do the Arnold that when they tried to kind of reshape him during his first kind of comeback, when he disappeared for a couple of years, he had heart surgery, and then he came back. This feels like it's more part of that. And that was not the Arnold I liked. I liked Last Stand, where it felt like it was a film that came out in 1993. That's the Arnold I feel like we want. So I think it was a little bit of a misnomer to think that I really wanted to see this kind of an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. I thought if it was gritty and violent enough, and this film is extremely violent for a mainstream film, it's almost kind of shocking how violent it is, and does kind of remind me of kind of more of a throwback action film than a modern action film. Modern action films are more PG-13. This is a very hard R. I can't see anyone who doesn't like Arnold even wanting to see this movie. I'm sure they'd shut it off after a while and really think it's awful. I definitely think it's interesting, and if you are into Arnold Schwarzenegger, you will like this film. And it does remind me of Bullet in the Head a little bit, where Bullet in the Head's not a great movie, but I thought Stallone did a better performance than the movie really probably deserved, and a grittier, darker performance. And Arnold's almost the same way in Sabotage. They're almost like the same films, except for Bullet in the Head was worse and by a better director. This film, sometimes he does too much stylized stuff in the action sequences, David Ayer. I'm not really convinced of him and like what he's trying to prove with this. Why did you take this weird avenue to do an Arnold Schwarzenegger film when his next film was this big World War II movie? It felt kind of like an odd choice for him. I kind of like that he did it, and I somewhat like that this kind of a film got made, but it's just an odd choice in a filmography. Arnold Schwarzenegger showed something that we didn't expect from him, which is a real range in a grittier picture. It's just the problem with Arnold in these grittier pictures is no one really wanted to see it. It's the vein of Arnold nobody really liked. So I still think with this, like, I feel like The Last Stand kind of didn't get as much love as it probably should have from especially my age group. Sabotage, I almost understand its failings because it's latching onto a part of Arnold's career that no one's really nostalgic for. Why not make Arnold Schwarzenegger movies that harken back to Terminator 2 and Total Recall and Eraser and very much Arnold movies? And this is probably one of the best attempts at doing a gritty Arnold movie, but just a little too stupid in places, and the characters are annoying, and it's harkening back to a time in Arnold's career that no one's really asking to come back. And I think that's really the problem, is old Arnold movies, no matter if you liked them or not, when you watch those films, you could get into them. And I feel like Last Stand, not an amazing film, but it was done by Kim Ji-woon, a good enough action director. This is just asking the audience to be nostalgic for something they never really wanted to be nostalgic for. So if you have seen Sabotage and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.